So first of all, thank you all for all the comments on the drainage issue. All comments are appreciated. Some comments do take me a lot of time, though. And some comments are always not that useful, but it's probably my own fault. And neglecting explanation. So, if you want to know anything about the drainage problem, you first need to know about the topography of the land, right? So, let's start here. This is basically the top of the mountain here behind me. And all the water comes that way. Basically left and right of you guys. But where you guys are standing, this is actually in width, this is quite level. So if you look over here, for instance, this does not slope down very much. And also the Rue de Font, the street on this side is quite level and flows out here on the main street. Basically all the water that comes from up the hill goes down the main street. This way. Except for the water that comes from behind me here, which goes that way. Or this way, but here's a gutter that takes the water back onto the main street. So this water here that comes from the entrance road ended up in the input of our pipe that goes to our land. So that part we're actually going to block off so that this water goes directly onto the main street, where all the other water goes. Another part where water comes from is from this gutter. But this gutter is completely clogged. It's all roof tiles and soil. The roof tiles coming from this building, which actually doesn't have a roof anymore. So the only water that's still coming here is the water that seeps through this soil and ends up here on the side of the house. But that happens now anyway. So these buildings are all abandoned. Although in one of the next episodes I might have some news about one of these buildings. And it's very peculiar that the news comes at this exact moment. But this was already clogged, guys, so the water is not going anywhere. So we're going to block this off here, maybe with some cement blocks, and make sure that the water that comes from up the mountain goes down into the street. And this water that has been coming here, that'll just come here anyway. But it won't end up on my land anymore. Here, to be exact. So this here is the other end of the outlet of the inlet you just saw. And this is basically what it's for, to take the water from the road that comes there from up the mountain and push it here into the garden. And I really don't want that. So the container we're making is not for this pipe. The container we're making is mainly for this trench. It's mainly for this trench that needs to end up in something. And if we're going to use it for that trench, we might as well use it for the guttering. Because the trench is not going to have a lot of water. And the gutters are. And then that water is going to go here through the French drain into my garden. Mainly the water from the gutters. And this can be within this French drain pipe, because this thing is 11 centimeters. And because we're on a mountain, we don't have that much standing groundwater. There is some water like passing through the surface of the soil. And that can be caught by the French drain, but it's very minimal. So I really don't see a reason to put in an extra pipe just for taking the water down there. What I learned with my research about the French drains is that it completely depends on the kind of soil you have and the kind of temperatures you have, how you want to use this kind of thing. So in other places you might need them like everywhere because you have standing groundwater. But here most water doesn't even make it into the ground and just flushes over because it's very compact soil. So I'm not that worried. And since we removed the soil here from the side of the wall and we're not going to put that back, most of the, how you say, moist problems are solved. Well, at least on this wall. So for this wall we're still not completely sure. Most likely it's the trench, and that problem will be solved as soon as we have guttering, because no water is going to end up in the trench anymore, very little. But the other option is still that it travels under the trench and that it goes into the house that way. But we have to see that, like as soon as autumn comes, we need to have gutters, and then we're going to see if the inside of the house stays dry. And if it doesn't, then we need to have a sort of a whole operation for this wall. With a lower trench or also a French drain. Another part that some people were worried about is the hill here behind the shed. This whole excavation here. So here we're also going to put in a French drain, like in a U shape, like on the sides and on the back side. And that should keep this building dry and take most of the water that comes seeping from this mountain. Eventually we will have terraces here, so the water can also drain more into the soil, because like it is now, it will all flow directly into the building. But that is not the end situation. So this part is going to have a sort of a retaining wall. And there's also probably going to be some kind of drainage. I want to make a sort of a flat surface here, like a terrace. And then there will be the wall here, and this terrace will need some sort of draining. And that will probably take the water that way down the road. There is still a little issue with the water coming here from the mountain and then going actually here sort of straight into the garden. Basically here. But this will be excavated. Excavated, the word of this video. And then that wall that you see over there will be continued. And probably like on the side of the street, we will have some sort of these draining trenches. That will probably also end up in the container that I'm building. I know that I can solve this problem in like a million different ways, right? Like I wouldn't have even needed a container. I could have done it in a different way. But I wanted to make a container because in Holland we also kind of use these things for gutters to have sort of an overflow, and then after that it can drain. But of course I could have used something from plastic, or I could have used these pre-made blocks. But I don't have much experience with like pouring cement, and especially not with rebar in it. I did some lintels, which turned out pretty good. But I need to do some footings also for the containers on the other land and stuff. And it looked to me like a good exercise to make it like that. I'm still not sure if it's going to work though. One of the reasons also is that this wall here, as you can see, it doesn't look that kind of stable. So I wanted to like sort of bound the house and the wall together with sort of a cement concrete container in this case. So yeah. And I don't really care if it takes a little bit more work. It's all a learning process, guys. I'm learning a lot. So yeah, there does come a lot of water from that side. But it's basically it's all going past my house. Past all my houses. Yeah, so we still need to do a little bit more work there. But I'm not really worried in water that is ending up against that shed. Okay, so here we are on the top of the entrance road. And this is the block of houses where this gutter goes past. And I think that the gutter would better go, for instance, the other way. If there's a gutter needed there. Because then it goes here into the open field. Instead of into the village or into my land. I wanted to try and make a little bit more clear to you where this gutter is going. This trench of the pipe that I blocked up. But you can't really see it here. This is the block of houses that is next to it. But since the Rue de Font is kind of straight, it doesn't slope down either way. So a better idea, if anybody would live in these houses, would be to have the gutter go the other way. Because there it would end up in sort of an open field instead of here in the middle of the village. I don't know, maybe that only made it more complicated. Yeah, and we can come to that when we, if we eventually need to. Which might come sooner than expected, as I said before. I was talking with Maria the other day and she had some interesting news. Interesting news. I'm gonna save that for another video. Yeah, so this whole trench would better flow out the other way. I hope that made it a little bit more clear for you guys. Not sure, maybe it made it even more complicated. Yeah, there's just a lot of things to account for that are not always clear in the videos I make. But mostly there's a good reason for stuff. You girls were outside, huh?